Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stuart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look. Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for tuning in and listening. I've got Larry on board and our global update. There's a fair amount going on that's just not being told to anybody. And, Larry, let's start with this North Korean situation because it's beginning to sound quite ominous. Phone calls going from to Trump from Japan, from China. Just read something where China was urging restraint. What's the latest on that?
Well, the latest information seems to be that possibly there's a plan in motion, and I suppose we're just waiting at it, you know. Of course, we know that Trump has recently said that strategic patience was over, that there was no more patience, and he was dealing with another avenue, and of course he's told others that he will handle the situation. Most of the information coming out of the White House is pretty mum on either Iran or North Korea, but there seems to be some movement around the Korean Peninsula, you know, and you're well aware that Trump had the South Korean president in Washington the last few days, and then also was making phone calls to Japan and to China reference North Korea and the threat there, and there just seems to be a lot in movement right now around that whole issue.
Well, I also read where Obama was over there talking to the South Korean and probably absolutely, trying to destroy Trump's initiative, get anything solved. And it always seems that Obama is actually, in truth, running a shadow government. And you got the media, which I believe are guilty of sedition and almost bordering on treason, and they won't stop their rhetoric. But if you look up the actual meaning, legal meaning of sedition or treason, it seems to me that major media is involved in that. They are trying to topple the lawfully established government and a lawfully established president. So, as we have mentioned before, I guess, you don't negotiate with the communists. To a communist, you're either a fellow communist, a comrade, or you should be dead. So that's the extent of the negotiations with them, and I don't think the American people really fully realize that. But with this situation developing in North Korea, this could go south in a hurry, and it almost sounds like with all this flurry, that's exactly what's going on. Here's an article from Beijing. Chinese president warned Donald Trump on Monday some negative factors are hurting the U.S.-China relations as tensions flare anew over a slew of long-standing sore points. And, of course, U.S. sanctions against the Chinese bank over its dealings with North Korea, most recently the sailing of a U.S. destroyer within the territorial sea limits of Chinese claims islands in the South China Sea. Well, those are artificial islands that they've made. So I guess what they do is they make an island and then they declare territorial waters. But if we're going to ignore all that, then it looks to me like we're heading into World War III and we're just waiting for the first domino to fall. What do you think?
Well, what's very interesting is, we waited all the, involving China especially, and really involving, Russia. We waited 8 years of Bush, and then we went ahead and made it 16 years by waiting 8 more years with Obama, while China and Russia, North Korea, Iran, basically all the backers of terrorism around the world, and of course our enemies built themselves up and got themselves ready, and then suddenly Trump, and I suppose there were reports that possibly if Hillary had won the election, Russia would have already attacked.
Yes.
The only thing holding Russia off was apparently a Trump surprise victory, and then they've done everything they can to remove him from power, and are now, even now, trying to impeach him. Matter of fact, there were reports yesterday, you couldn't find it on the news, but I found it in Breitbart, that there were anti-Trump impeachment protests all over the nation, but it was just not covered in the news. And what's interesting, Stuart, is the fact that even now they're really literally cringing that Trump may be able to go to the G20 summit this week and literally meet outside the scope of surveillance with Putin, and it scares them to death.
Yeah. Well, I would remind everyone, and I'm not saying who Trump is, but I would remind everyone to read Psalm 2. Larry and I have mentioned Psalm 2 I don't know how many years, but this is the foundation of all latter-day prophecy. And if you read Psalm 2 carefully about the kings and the rulers of the earth, you go into Deuteronomy chapter 28, and it's the international banking cartels. If you go into the book of Revelation, you find added to all of that are the major global corporations. Now, Psalm 2 does not seem to make any exceptions to this overall conspiracy against the Lord and his anointed. Now, here's a headline that sort of makes you wonder whether Psalm 2 is being played out before our eyes. Kushner, Ivanka, Soros, Schumer, and more mingle in the Hamptons. Where does political polarization end? At the Hamptons. On Saturday, the world's most powerful politicians, celebrities, and billionaires from both sides of the aisle congregated at the Washington Post editor Lally Weymouth, Southampton home for champagne, cocktails, and fried chicken. The star-studded guest list included Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, George Soros, Kellyanne Conway, Steven Spielberg, Bill Bratton, Charles Koch, Carl Icahn, and Chuck Schumer, among others. Oh, well, that's kind of odd, don't you think, Larry? They're all having a party together when they hate each other when it comes out on TV. I think we're watching a sham operation. I think the American people are having the wool pulled over their eyes that everything is honky-dory when they're all in this together just like Psalm 2 says they are. What do you think?
Well, I'll say this, Stuart. Since Donald Trump came into office, what legislation has the Republicans, after 8 years of voicing their opinions, passed? Zero. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And someone might say, well, the House passed, the immigration bill and the Cates Law, but they're already saying that's dead in the Senate, that all along Congress has not desired to do anything to help or give safety to the American people. And the American people still sit on their couch.
Yeah. So Is it possible that what we're looking at, they allow years to go by, the communists slowly infiltrate all areas of government, et cetera, communist coup. Then all of a sudden, the Illuminati, whoever, and there was this, I can't remember what he was, Secret Service, I think, agent, who told the lady that Trump had been selected way back in 2013 to come in. So are we just watching kind of a sham? And Trump is not only going to bring in the Cyrus judgment, and the Lord allows all of this, and all of a sudden we have our chaos card. What would happen if we get involved in a nuclear exchange in North Korea, which seems very, very possible? Now, what would they say to Trump about that?
Well, what I find interesting, Stuart, is the fact that we have, you've got the book, the Trump Prophecies.
Yes.
Apparently, Trump was selected in 2011 because, Mark Taylor clearly said that he was told Trump was the next president in 2011, and he thought it meant the 2012 election, except actually it was the 2016 election.
Yes. Yep.
And so really, Trump was picked some time ago. Actually, we don't even know how far before 2011, literally. But what's interesting is the fact that I still say over and over and over, and I have said for some time, it doesn't matter what the Illuminati is doing. It doesn't matter what the New World Order group and all of these are doing, and Congress and the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, because their hands are already dealt. They've already been bought and paid for. However, I still say, as this plays out, keep your eyes on the wild cards, and some of those wild cards, of course, in the deck are Trump, are Putin, are Netanyahu, and one or two more around the world. So we've got to watch the wild cards, and as this begins to play out, it's as you said, Stuart, and I wonder, what's your opinion still? Do you still think North Korea may be the first domino?
I think it could well be, and if that goes, then we know what Iran's going to do. And you had some news on Iran, Turkey and Iran forging some sort of an alliance. That might well play into this thing, because North Korea and Iran are buddies, and obviously Russia is kind of cozy with North Korea. I mean, after all, China and Russia can, North Korea is very, very rich in their rare metals. So it might be to their advantage to let Trump go in there and remove Kim. Then they swoop in and they take the entire peninsula, like we've kind of mentioned before. So, yeah, I guess we just have to really watch. But it seems like it's in some ways very quiet about that, and yet we're hearing all of these little rumbles in the background. Why would China kind of have an emergency call with Trump and warn him off, basically? And haven't they launched a carrier group?
Oh, yeah. China has put a number of warships to the water, and, they're moving around also that Yellow Sea and that peninsula area. And what's interesting is the fact that we've got a complete carrier group. We got the USS G.W. Bush, I guess they call it, aircraft carrier setting off Papa, Israel, and other ships in the area there, and even Debkafile is wondering and making comments about, and of course we're not hearing any of this news in American news. American news, well, mainstream, it's only anti-Trump and forget the rest of the world. There's nothing going on in the world.
Yeah,
don't even take a look. Just continually watch the Trump smoke screen go by. But the rest of the world's watching, and there are comments that's intriguing out of Israel saying that the USS H.W. Bush aircraft carrier group opposite the Israeli port city of Haifa may be there because of a secret pact that Turkey has made with Iran. And you remember we talked some time ago about there appeared to be a prep, a New World Order prep for a partitioning of Syria and that region. In other words, everybody grabs a little bit. And so now, even the U.S. is there. Now, we've moved special operators up on the Turkish border watching for what may be called, according to Deborah File, a Turkish-Iranian invasion to, for a land grab into not only Syria, but rumored to be including Iraq, Jordan, and even parts of Israel. So are we looking, Stuart, at a Daniel 8 scenario about to break out if something begins in Korea, the first domino?
Yeah, I think probably it all depends. Well, this kind of moves into that star sign. It says that this star sign is a great wonder in the heavens. And it just so happens to fall on a feast, basically on a Feast of Trumpets, or just slightly thereafter, maybe 24 hours after. So, and if the Lord delays Feast of Trumpets one day by a miraculous event, then they would fall exactly on 9/23. We mentioned the occult interpretation of what that star sign means, and basically it's an arrival. So we also remember, folks, we have Project Bluebeam, which is a fake arrival using holographic projections into the atmosphere, along with anti-gravity ships that have been stationed on the moon and Mars. And when I was doing research on the Mars thing, I saw 2 UFOs on ramp. Remember that, Larry? In the pictures, yeah. They're pretty obvious that they're sitting there. So it would be very, very easy, as the Bible's now. What's interesting is that the Bible talks about in Thessalonians a great wonder of lying signs and wonders, and it's tied directly to an arrival. So the only question is, where's the church in all this? Where are the 2 witnesses in all of this? Does the church go out as the 2 witnesses come down? Could be very probable. We really don't know. But with everything going on planet Earth, it certainly points to we're going to have a very interesting next 3 months. And people really, really, really better start watching very closely. This thing can go down anytime. You just wake up one morning and we'll have an announcement that Trump has struck Korea, or that Kim has struck Hawaii, or maybe even parts of California. We really don't know what he has, do we? For weapons.
No, we absolutely. Yeah, we really don't, because there is some intel coming out of that region of the world that some of this missile technology that he's been firing is Chinese-made. In other words, constructed, built in China, and given to him. So we don't know how deeply involved China and North Korea are, except we do know that, remember, there was a report about a Chinese carrier that had docked off Tartus,
yes.
Syria, and that there was also Chinese troops involved in Syria. And, of course, that was hushed up so quickly you would never even know that it was ever there. But yet we've got this linkage of some kind between Russia and China and North Korea and Iran with the parallel nuclear, research. And, Assad and all this is going on, and even Turkey now has done a pivot and apparently moved over into the other camp, as you said she always would.
Yes. Prophetically, Turkey has to align itself with Russia and that group, all the enemies of Israel. Turkey's been playing, sitting on the fence, playing both sides for quite a while. But as we come up on this final finale, they're going to start taking their sides. And I think we're watching all of that take place. I think they're all taking sides. They're being maneuvered, like the Lord says. My hand is stretched out upon the nations, and I have proposed it, and I'm going to do it. Who's going to stop me? So I think the church, basically, let's get into the church in Augusto before we close out. What was that deal with Augusto on a possible, almost sounded like he was very careful how he worded it, but it almost sounded like either a coup attempt or maybe they're going to try and get rid of him through the Senate and House on Trump, that he kind of saw a sort of a vision, he said, about it.
Well, it's very interesting. Augusto called me by phone a day or so ago, and then I talked to you, and he told me he's got new stuff up, and of course people can go to his website, theappearance.com.
I like the vanishing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, theappearance.com, and click on the Visions and Dreams, and there he's got 3 things, and I'll let you describe them a little bit. You've read them too. Number 1 is some type of coup attempt apparently going on against Trump, and then the other is North Korea and Kim Jong-un. And then the third one is very intriguing, Stuart, talking about maybe the bots even. It's called Christian Believers Disappear, and people can go there. This has only been in the last 2 or 3 weeks that he's had these experiences and have posted them, and by design, he has left data out. And, of course, if you read about it, you can see where he left data out, because he says the data he was shown in this experience was too extreme in its secrecy, and he couldn't afford to post it.
Well, it would be probably, if the vision is true and he was shown this, which I don't doubt, then he would be releasing information that would compromise what we're going to do or not do. So, yeah, I fully understand why he wouldn't go ahead with that. But this vanishing thing is very, very interesting, because the bots, Cliff High, I don't know if he's an atheist, but he's very close to it if he isn't. And he speaks about this vanishing. And that's exactly what that prophet over there, I can't remember where he was, over by Russia somewhere, Balkans area, who also many years ago prophesied of a vanishing, that people would be taken away, and that a new era was coming, a new wave of, good stuff for the people who don't know the Lord or who think it's going to be good stuff. But in the ultimate end of it, it will be very, very bad stuff. In other words, it's part of the strong delusion, and it deals with the arrival. So I guess my guess is what Malachi Martin told everybody, watch the skies, because something is coming. And I just don't think it's, we know the destroyer is coming, but I don't think that's what he was talking about. I think he was talking about an arrival. What do you think?
Well, it's very interesting, too. If you read closely the Christian Believer Disappear, he also notes that they are returned, except to different places than where they had left from. So it reminds me a lot. There's a lot of things going on, like Mary and the Begats, surprise, surprise,
yes.
Like Cyrus Trump in Babylon, surprise, surprise. Well, maybe there's some spiritual surprises, too, involving the remnant believers that we haven't picked totally up on yet and are not aware of the consequences and what really is planned as even arrival comes, We've heard so much about the wolves and all of these creatures that seem to be appearing and really targeting mankind in different locations around the world. But where are the believers in some of this? Are they all gone, or maybe are they changed, or maybe things have changed? This is beginning to, in a way, become very exciting, actually, and it makes you want to watch, really watch.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question the veils are thinning. We've got so many reports of it, and odd creatures showing up, especially here in Wisconsin. Wisconsin's noted for paranormal activity, Bigfoots, werewolves, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously then there are either portals around that are unknown, or there's something going on up here. You have it down there in Oklahoma. Was it Nevada that had that ranch portal that made the headlines for quite a while?
Yeah.
And creatures coming through it, and shapeshifters. Yeah. I think we're going to be dealing with some very, very odd stuff real soon, and it's just surprising to me that all of this is converging as we approach 9/23. There's a whole lot to this, and the gainsayers who are offering up all their reasons why it's not true are presenting false information. I've researched even the star signs. And then they argue about, there was and still is in the church this doctrine of imminence, and therefore Christ can return at any old time, and therefore there are no signs for the church at all, and you can disprove that. Then the other argument they have is that no one can know the time or the day or the hour, and Jesus himself says in the book of Revelation, you better be watching so that that day doesn't come upon you as a thief. So that kind of, if you're not going to watch, if you're not going to pay attention, folks, you're going to get caught. And probably even the people that are watching are going to be in for a surprise, like you just kind of indicated. We're really not sure how all this goes down. What do you think?
Well, I think you're right. Yeah, there's a lot of things up here where I live. And a matter of fact, they had a new book out at CJ's store down here in Octavia, Oklahoma, called Hunting Apes in America. My Life as a Bigfoot Hunter by Jerry Heath. And what's interesting in his book, the whole book almost is filled up with this Area X, a place where you don't get caught out after dark. And guess where Area X is? Right here where I live.
Really? Well,
yeah.
That matches up what some of the other folks around you have spoken about. I know that couple that you and I both know down there, Bigfoot, been rapping on their windows and stuff. What's interesting is Red Elk said there are several types of Bigfoot. Some of them are kind of just travelers, but they're interdimensional. Some of them are born here and live here. I think some of them even come up from underground, if I remember right. Do you remember that part of it? I'd have to go look back at what he said.
Yeah, I think you're accurate. That's what he said. And what's interesting is the couple we're talking about, who lives not too far from me, actually, a little ways. They've been sighting more and more Bigfoot creatures around their place. They're having entities walk through their doors, creatures on their roofs. I mean, it's getting really, really bizarre. And even here, I've sighted one right down here by the house, and I've had something leave me stones on my porch. Not threatening at all, but they're here.
Yeah, Bigfoot is great on sticks and stones. They like to throw stuff around, I guess. And as long as they don't feel you're occupying what they consider their territory, I guess they probably won't bother you. Anyway, any other news before we close? We got about 40 seconds.
Oh, we just need to kind of keep our eye on the situation, especially as Trump goes to the G20 overseas. Watch North Korea, watch Syria, the Israel region there. Just watch closely the next few days.
Yeah. There's a lot going on, and I think what's going to happen, this is going to spring forth suddenly with virtually no warning, particularly as we get through July. Anyway, we'll see you again on the Night Shadows. We'll let you know, and thanks, everybody, for listening. So good night.